Thank you so much, Ms. Rosales, for doing this with me. So I was asked that to ask these 8 questions, and we can even talk about it in between if that's okay with you. How well prepared do you feel to teach students with disabilities and other special learning needs?
So if I would just give it a rating of like a 1 to 10, I'd probably say about a 7 because there's always room for improvement. And I know there's always something that we need that we don't always get. Resource-wise, we can always use more resources. Somebody can definitely be in the room that's available for somebody with special needs. Sometimes we're put in a situation where we don't have that help, and it would help to have somebody there. Just depends on the student, really.
So you're talking about resources, or you talk? So how about your own personal preparation? How well prepared do you feel with dealing with special ed kids?
I'd say pretty well. Pretty well, especially one-on-one. It's not a problem with one-on-one.
Okay.
Just depends. You got to gauge who they are, how they are. Every child is different, so they react differently to the way you respond to them.
Excellent. And did you complete a traditional program or alternative certification?
I completed a traditional one.
Okay. And who was that through?
That was Texas Tech
Okay.
University.
What is your role and responsibility in teaching students with disabilities? So role and then the responsibility that goes with that role.
So the role is to try to differentiate for them, for me, to try to, so yes, we have the content, but how am I going to help that student with that content? Maybe I have to X out a couple of things for them. I might have to reword some stuff for them. Sometimes it's just taking some pieces off.
So is the differentiation left up to you? That's your role and your responsibility?
When it comes to the classroom, yes.
Okay. And so when you say when it comes to the classroom, yes, are there other times and places where the kids are taught apart from your classroom?
That would be with the SPED teacher.
Okay.
Depends on the child again. So if they're really, really, severely SPED, she has some of her own content, and she'll try to help them out too.
Okay. So in your opinion, what are the characteristics of an effective, inclusive instruction?
Man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
One, where everyone gets to talk and everyone gets to interact with the SPED needs child. You have their opinion, you have what they believe in, and then you have somebody who might disagree with them. But it's okay, because that's the point of the lesson of teaching, is just to let the students talk with each other. Even the SPED students, they should have their own voice as well.
And is that just academically?
I think in general, especially like physical, emotional, at recess, for them to interact with each other is essential.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest thing for me.
Okay. And could you describe the frequency and the methods of collaboration between you and the special education teacher working with the students that have the disabilities in your classes?
So frequency, you mean like how often we
How
see each
often?
other? We see each other every day.
Okay. And methods?
Methods, she
collaboration?
usually does small group. She'll try to do one-on-one with some of the students, but for the most part, it's small group.
Okay. And how do you collaborate? Do you meet beforehand? Do you do it off the fly?
We do it off the fly.
Okay. In what ways are you providing effective instruction for students with disabilities?
Again, it goes back to differentiated, small group. Try to pull as much as I can. It's probably the one way I can think of it.
Yeah. So back to that previous question. And what is your biggest challenge in working with students with disabilities? If you had to think of something that's just like, this is really hard.
I wish there was more help for us.
Okay, that's what we got before also.
Yeah, it's just help, because yes, we want to be one-on-one with this child, but we also have another class to teach, or a whole class to teach. And it's sometimes when I sit down, and I work with the student, it does take away from the students that are already in the classroom. And yes, you can set your classroom to where they know to be self-sufficient, but there's always still that attention that's taken away. And that's all right for every so often, but if you have a student that requires consistency and always needs to be with you, then that gets difficult.
How often does that happen?
For me, it happens maybe like half of the classroom period. Just depends, really. And that's okay, because the resources are so scarce. It's not easy.
Right. What do you mean when you say resources? The
Resources,
people, or
teachers, mostly just teachers, bodies to help with that student.
And so they don't necessarily have to just all be special ed? Can they just be paraprofessionals as well?
They can be paraprofessionals. Yeah, they can be that. for us in 5th grade particularly, we have the SPED teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But I know of instances where it's the paraprofessional who helps out, and
Right.
that is very tremendously helpful.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I'm going to be in my own classroom next fall. So, what recommendations do you have to help me prepare to teach these students with disabilities and other special learning needs?
Try to be as understanding as you can and be patient with them,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes it can happen where you don't realize it, but you can damage a relationship, and that can be it for that SPED needs student.
Mm.
Be their hero.
Right.
Understand them before you even get to, like, don't question them, just understand them.
Mm-hmm.
Try to connect with them. And that's hard for me because I have to find time to connect with my students, and I don't always get the chance to do that. That's probably the biggest thing. Connect with them. Understand them as much as you can and build that relationship.
That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. You were fast.